L'Homme Libre right here, this fragrance right here that's balancing off this La Nuit de l'Homme frozen cologne that's balancing on the Le Parfum de la Nuit de l'Homme. Careful, don't break before the review. Is dubbed or tagged by many reviewers as the worst. The worst. Those are strong words. The worst YSL flanker by many. It all started with, of course, the original L'Homme that I absolutely love. Some people call it generic, but it's a good kind of generic. I like that one. But anyway, a lot of people hate L'Homme Libre, and others actually, a small portion of the community, call this fragrance underrated. So, which one is it? Which one is it? Well, let me throw my 2 cents into the game. I know a little bit about YSL L'Homme lineup. Let's see how L'Homme Libre stacks up against the rest of them. Going on YouTube fragrance family, welcome to another Robes 08 fragrance review. Today I'm putting my nose on the house of Yves Saint-Laurent, and I love this line. There's a lot of these that are my favorites. Obviously the two behemoths in the line, L'Homme, the original, Eau de Toilette, beautiful, sexy. Hey, my wife bought that back in the day when it first came out for me for Christmas, so it has sentimental reasons for me. And La Nuit de l'Homme. Those are the big behemoths in the line. I love delving, peeling some layers, get some flankers. Let's see what the flankers can give us. This one called L'Homme Libre. Let's hit the stats on L'Homme Libre. Hit the shelves back in 2011. Bottle sizes, they actually have quite a bit. And this fragrance was, in some countries, was a limited release. Not too many retailers had this fragrance, so I'm surprised with all the bottle sizes. 1.3 ounce, 2 ounce. I got the one right here, the 3.3, and then as always, the lineup have those huge 6.7 ounce bottles. So there's many to choose from. There's rumblings in the fragrance community that this flanker right here and its cousin, which also kind of looks like this, but it has a little name under it, which is called Tonic, have both been axed. Chop, chop. I could not get any confirmation from my rep. My rep is from Canada, and they told me that it had a limited release in Canada. So pretty much I think this one is axed. You guys can comment below in your countries. Have you seen this kicking around? Have you seen the little cousin Tonic? Have you seen them? Concentrations Eau de Toilette. It is a woody, spicy fragrance. It is, of course, a flanker of L'Homme. And pricing, it varies. Online, it's crazy. You're looking at approximately $40 to $130. So huge variance in price. I would not be paying $100+ for this particular fragrance. So just an FYI from yours truly. The nose behind this is a two-headed monster. And I'm saying monster because these are names that are huge in our games. First, let's name drop Olivier Polge. Amazing perfumier. Let's go with Carlos Benem. These two are monsters in our game, so I'm expecting good things with a name like this, YSL backing it, and of course the lineup. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? Well, it went wrong. Let's take a look at the note breakdown. In the opening, we have some violet leaf. That's your X factor. That thing is huge. In this particular fragrance, we got some basil, bergamot, and anise. In the mid, we got nutmeg and pink pepper. And in the base, we have patchouli, vetiver, and leather. Major notes to this nose right here, we got violet leaf. That is what this fragrance is based upon. We got the basil too. And don't forget the vetiver. Now let's take a look at application for L'Homme Libre. My standard one on the chest, 2 on the neck, right here and right here. 2 on the arms. Whoa. Oh, that's sweetness. Oh boy, L'Homme Libre. And this is not part of my application. This is just for my fragrance review, is a reminder of the introduction, 1 on the hand. As you can tell, that initial blast, she's rough. And again, honesty is the best policy. She's rough. And it's not, you know, L'Homme and La Nuit de l'Homme, beautiful introductions. I mean, really, they came out smooth out of the gate. This one, a little sketchy, a little rough around the edges, a little on the synthetic side, smelling like something that would be cheaper than this, unfortunately. So off the bat, L'Homme Libre is clear as day from the opening that this is very, very different as a build from L'Homme and, of course, La Nuit. I felt those two had an opening that grabbed me as a designer fragrance. And in those two, I kind of felt like there's something special with these two fragrances. They'll do well, they'll sell well, and they did. They really, really did. Libre, it was actually the third release out of the brand. And off the bat, it felt like it didn't belong in that lineup. It didn't meet expectations, and I felt it was something YSL was just kind of working on, and then they're just like, it's not going well. They might have added another parfumier to finish this project, and they just decided to piggyback on the success of the top-selling lineup. Now, that's not fair to this. I don't want to judge this between the two successes of the other two. That wouldn't be fair to this particular fragrance. But this one, coming out the gate, what immediately hits me is that synthetic sweetness. Some say this is the bergamot. However, I've never ever smelled bergamot that smells like this. Or really bergamot that's sweet. It's not bergamot to me. It's very much a synthetic sweetness. And it takes over the scent. And I mean, it dominates. It really hits your nostrils. The opening of this scent, it's really a lot of sweetness, and that violet leaf starts coming in. It just reminds me of cheaper scents. Like I said earlier, like a Lacoste Style and Play comes in mind, that red bottle. And this, of course, does not help Libre's case in this review. With time, this sweetness starts burning off bit by bit, and develops a violet leaf. The violet leaf will eventually dominate this scent. And violet leaf is nothing new in the men's fragrance game. It's, of course, violet leaf was utilized in the popular Dior release back in 1988 called Fahrenheit. So this fragrance is very much compared to that classic in our men's game. Now, speaking of Fahrenheit, Libre will remind many users of Fahrenheit, and you're going to see it in fragrance reviews, YouTube, Fragrantica, wherever you go, you're going to see that Fahrenheit is kind of tagged with this one. And for good reason, as they both utilize violet leaf as their primary note. And one could actually argue leather, nutmeg, vetiver, among other notes, are in both scents, actually. So to my nose, I can tell why noses would gravitate to that or compare them, but to me, these are two different beasts. Fahrenheit is a classic for good reason. And this? No. No. Now, violet leaf as a note always gives scents a green, metallic, and watery aspect that can be compared, the watery aspect can be compared to a melon or cucumber-like. I've always enjoyed the watery or ozonic feel of violet leaf. It really is quite uplifting, and it does this trick in Libre in spades. It gives this scent a sweet, fresh feeling that many new releases start making popular, yet they didn't do it with violet leaves. So you're going to see this also compared to Bleu de Chanel, among others. L'Homme Libre always has that synthetic sweetness running through the veins of the fragrance with this violet leaf note. Sadly, it ruins kind of the violet leaf. It really ruins the ozonic qualities that I'm getting with it by peppering it with some sweetness. I'm not a fan of that type of genre, and I really didn't like it in this one. Personally, for me, at the time of this release, it had the worst opening of all of them. And the battle was just only uphill for me right now with this fragrance. Obviously, it was going against two juggernauts, Homme and La Nuit de l'Homme, but it had the worst release back in the day. Arguably the worst release of an lineup of all time. Now, basil is also sprinkled in this opening as a secondary note to the violet leaves. The basil note reminds some noses to mint, which makes sense since it's in the mint family, of course. And it truly shines and shows its peppery, anise-like qualities and slightly minty qualities too. I would consider violet leaves as your obvious primary note in L'Homme Libre, but basil is an excellent secondary note, and I am going to call it the X factor in this particular fragrance because it does make a difference to the scent profile of this scent. There is also a light sprinkle of spices in here, mildly peppery, that will follow through into the deeper dry down. Now more into the heart and the dry down of L'Homme Libre. It's not as exciting as the opening, to be quite honest, and that opening wasn't very exciting to start off with. The basil shows itself a little more, shares the spotlight with the violets, which continue to push as the primary note until the end of this scent. The vetiver shows up, the patchouli shows up, gives it a little bit more of those green notes to this already green scent. They both are there to give the scent really just a base. And it aren't really nothing truly to wait for. You know how you wait for the opening and it'll get better in the dry down. No, they don't. Now, a lot of note breakdowns online, and including my note breakdown in this particular review, have leather listed. And I can't feel a leathery aspect here. Perhaps maybe a poorly made suede note here that just gives depth. That's all I really felt. There's no real character to it. If there is some in here to note, I was informed this scent was reformulated with a leather note installed into a particular fragrance, and the cap was changed to a metallic one. So I have the old school plastic clear cap, and of course the one in stores or the newer releases have a metallic cap, just like the usual lineups. And that's when the leather note was installed in the fragrance. Overall, this scent to me ends very thin. There's not much going on here in this particular fragrance. Overall, L'Homme Libre, as the third installment of the Homme lineup behind La Nuit and the original, is a huge disappointment to me. And it is a huge disappointment to the fan base out there. It did not match up in blend, quality. Even with the two all-star noses attached to this fragrance, it still came out as a dud. It felt like this particular scent piggybacked on the famous lineup name. It reminds me of a Lacoste style in play or diesel fuel for life, and that type of crowd will enjoy this type of fragrance, which are sweet synthetic scents that are playful, and not that there's anything wrong with those type of fragrance, but I expected more from the YSL lineup. To start my disappointment, this scent was built on a theme that isn't new at all in the men's game. It did not improve upon it. You know, if you are going against something like Fahrenheit that's still selling well these days in the men's game, that has that huge violet leaf, you better come correct and come after it. And it did not. The blend was way off base already in the first few minutes of smelling this fragrance. And I never felt like this fragrance went anywhere or had an identity to it while wearing it. It just felt blah. My favorite part of the scent is more into the heart when the basil and the violet leaf kind of go head to head. The sweetness tones down a little bit. At that time, it was getting a little too late. This scent really doesn't stick on my skin. It really loses steam quickly. I'm like, there's the good part, and then, oh, there it goes. The dry down is very bland. I felt the scent was very top heavy just to sell. A shame. People compare this to the famed Fahrenheit. Now let's take a look at recommended age, and I think it's for anybody. I really feel, yes, I name drop kind of teens because the sweetness and all that. And yes, I could see that. The teens would like this. They would gravitate towards this. A guy in his 20s, like his sporty fragrance. That's how I feel this fragrance can be utilized for an older gentleman. Of course, it utilizes a DNA that's very familiar with the violet leaf, of course, vetiver, patchouli. These aren't things that are new in our fragrance game. Best time to wear this fragrance, hey, this is, I feel, to me, it has that playfulness, so it would have to be casual. It utilizes a familiar DNA. With, of course, the violets and the vetiver, patchouli, and all that. But at the same time, it utilizes that sweetness, so it makes it a little more playful. I think it's more casually daily wear. There's nothing wrong wearing this at night. After the gym, splash this on. It would be one of those fragrances that's a little more invigorating, but it has a lot of sweetness to the fragrance. 2 seasons, mostly spring. I can see summer nights. This didn't do very well in the heat for me. just an FYI, fall. So spring, rainy days did well. These type of fragrances do well in rain. Summer nights, it's a little cooler. And of course, fall when it's a little more cooler. I put this away for winter. Development, linear, average, or complex. This is very close to average to linear. It really didn't move much. The Richter scale didn't move on this one. Especially, you know, once it gets into the dry down, I just felt like, where's the rest of the fragrance? Where is it? Where's the backbone to this scent? Work appropriate, it could be for a younger man. I think somebody, you know, in their early 20s, just getting into the job, you could splash this on, and it has a little bit of that playfulness to the fragrance. Signature scent worthy, not really. I don't see this as a daily driver for somebody. Now let's get into my rating system. Projection, longevity, as you can see here, double 5. It's very average. Projection 5, very, very average as far as projection. Longevity, fairly low. I think I get better than most people, 4 to 6 hours as far as longevity goes, so it's okay. A compliment factor, this is where the Richter scale depends on the person, I guess. I'm gonna give it 4 bottles out of 10. You will get some because many violet leaf type fragrances do get compliments, and I have received some with this fragrance, but nothing over in the abundance. So a 4 out of 10 on that. Uniqueness, this is something that it is not. 3 bottles out of 10. Pricing versus what you get. Well, if I'm looking at retail and even at discounters, this thing is fairly pricey. Like, it continues to, you know, it's not going in the $30 range US. It's actually a little higher than that. It is continuing its value. I would have to say 3 bottles out of 10. I can't see it. There is a lot more violet leaf based fragrances that can do much better for your buck, especially more complexity. And if you're just looking for something to splash on, Fahrenheit's your staple for violet leaf, guys. Versatility, 7 bottles out of 10. It is fairly versatile. Smell, 5 bottles out of 10. Again, it gets that average score. It is a fragrance that isn't bad, very bad, but it's bad. And I agree with the bulk of the community that does not like this particular fragrance. I can see not worth you looking out for this fragrance. And that goes to an overall score, L'Homme Libre by Yves Saint Laurent. 5 bottles out of 10, an average score for an average fragrance. It is what it is. Now for buy, try, or pass, I gotta say this is a pass for me. I don't think this is one of the weaker releases from the lineup. Unfortunately, it just didn't work. So that's a pass. Now I just want to thank everybody for watching my review on L'Homme Libre. Please comment below if you have tested out this fragrance. You own the bottle. You still own a bottle. You love it. You hate it. Good or bad in the ugly. I would love to hear anybody's take in the comments below on this particular fragrance. And while we're at it, what is your favorite flanker of the lineup? There is a gazillion of these things. I own a gazillion of them. I got to review them all. I'm late on a lot of them. So I would love to hear your take on which one you think is the best. And remember, a great or poor fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thank you for watching, YouTube.